Hello there and welcome to a brand new video. This is How Beyond Numbers, where we learn math the easy way. Now in this video we'll be looking at back bearing. In our previous video we spoke of what bearing is, and then we were able to draw some bearing, that is directions of one place to the other in terms of angle. Now in this video we're looking at back bearing. When we talk of back bearing, let's say you have this point A over here, right? And you have realized that its bearing, or let's say you have this point B rather, and its bearing from A is this angle over here. So you are going somewhere and you wanted direction to that place. You were to incline your car or whatever you are using to move at this angle. Now that you are at that place, what angle should you incline your vehicle to come back to where you were previously at? So you are at A, the bearing of A from B, the bearing of B from A is what this alpha over here. Now I want the bearing of A from B, the back bearing. That's what we call the back bearing. We'll be looking at two ways of doing it: the graphical, and then the one you use the formula. So without much I say or do, let's quickly look at how to work the graphical method. So for this first question here, it says what is the bearing of K from Q? What is the bearing of K from Q if the bearing of Q from K is 70? To solve this, you can first of all represent it graphically. You see, so let's represent it graphically. Now take note of the from. The first one says what is the bearing of K from Q if the bearing of Q from K is 70 degrees. So let's draw the bearing of Q from K. So if you look here, what we have here, K is here and Q is here. You see, we are being told that the bearing of this Q over here from K is 70 degrees. So this is where our 70 is going to be. You see, and take note, we have our north here, our east and south, and then west over here. So the bearing of Q from K is 70 degrees. What then is the bearing of what? What then is the bearing of K when we are at Q? So what you do is you measure this angle here. You know, measuring bearing always has to be with respect to the north. So we start from the north and measure the angle of this line with respect to the north. What I mean is we measure this whole angle over here. That is what will be our back bearing. You see, so from this point here, we all know this side is 0. This here is at 90 degrees. Then what you have here is your 180. So 180 plus what you have remaining over here. And under angles, if you see these two angles, right, we call them alternating angles. And alternating angles are equal. Alternating angles are equal. So if this is 70, then we have 70 as well over here. You see? So the back bearing, we know this to be 180. 180 plus 70. You see? So this implies that the bearing of K from Q is going to be 180 plus 70, which gives us a 250. So 250, you see. So you say therefore the bearing of K from Q is what? 250. So this is how we solve it, especially when you are given in a word problem. Let's take some few more examples. So in this second example here, we have actually been given a diagram. And it says in the diagram, find I, the bearing of B from A. You want the bearing of this B here from the A. And we know that bearings are measured always with respect to the north. You see, with respect to the north. So if I'm to copy this, then this is what we were given here. If you want to find a bearing, then you need to indicate where your north is. So this is where I have my north. And if we are measuring three-figure bearing from the north, then this is the angle we need to represent our bearing. Now, we know this angle here is 90 degrees. And if it is 90 degrees and 45 has already been taken, then what we have left here is also 45 degrees, you see, from the north. So this simply implies that the bearing of B from A is what? 045 degrees. Remember, we need it in three figures. Okay. Now with that said, the second part of the question says we want the bearing of A from B. This is where we have our A. We want its bearing from B. You see? So how do we do that? Let's go to the next page and see how we are going to go about that. So this is our bearing first of all. Now before we can get the bearing of A from B, you need to indicate what? Your north here. And since we are taking the bearing on B, then most importantly, we need our north or our cardinal point on B as well. So I'm going to put this cardinal point here on B. As you can see here, the cardinal points are going to be on B, with my north up here, my east, and then whatever you have to do. We are now coming to measure this angle from the north on B, this angle all the way to the line here. You see, that is what we want to measure. And how do we go about it? We already know that since this is a straight line, then this whole angle here is what? A 180 degrees. So all we need now is this angle here. All we need is this angle here, you see. And for this angle here, it alternates with this angle here. You see, they are alternating angles. And since they alternate, if this side, as we have said initially, is 45 degrees, then this side is also going to be what? A 45 degrees. So that simply means we have 45 degrees over here. You see? So at the end of the day, we have 180 plus a 45 degrees. That will give us our back bearing. Sorry. It's going to give us our back bearing. So this implies that our back bearing, or the bearing of A from B, is what? 225. That is measuring this whole angle here. Right? So let's write that. So this is our answer as we see over here. Therefore, what? The bearing of A from B is 225. On that note, let's solve one last question, after which you can try more on your own. So in this last question here, you can see our bearing over here. And it says, what is the bearing of N from M? And the second one says, what is the bearing of M from N? You see, there are two different things. The first one is trying to say we are standing here and want the bearing of this. The second one is saying we are standing here and want the bearing of this. So let's quickly go into it. I'll be doing it in the next page, so you can copy the question and then we move. So this is what we have here. Now we want, first of all, this angle here. But we know that there is already 50 here. You see, if our north is here, we know this here also forms a 90 degrees. Now if this already forms a 90 degrees, then if we want this whole angle here, it's going to be the 90 plus the 50. And that will give us the bearing of N from what? M. You see, so just add 90 to what? 50. So we can say it implies that from the diagram, the bearing of N from M is what? The 90 plus the 50, which is 140. Then we are left with this second one over here, 140 degrees. So for this second one, we now draw our cardinal point on the end. We draw our cardinal point on the end. So I'll be drawing that here. Then I have this also over here. All right. So with this cardinal point of mine, I'm now going to measure my angles. All right. So what do we want to measure? We want to measure the angle all the way from the north over here. This here is my north. So you're measuring all the way from this side back here. That is going to give us our back bearing. You see, this is actually longer. Okay. But we know that on the north we have 0, 0, 0 degrees. On the east we have the 90 degrees. On the south we have 180 degrees. And over here on the west we have 270 degrees. So it means we already even have from here to this side. You see? So all we need to add is this missing piece over here. So how do we get the missing piece? Once again, our attention is being drawn toward alternating angles. This angle here alternates with this angle here. So it means this angle here is a 50 degrees. So our back bearing is just going to add the 50 towards the 270. That is what we are going to get as our back bearing. So this implies that the bearing of M from N is what? 320 degrees. And how are we getting the 320? We are adding the 270 to the 50 we have over here. So basically, this is how we solve for what? Back bearing. Back bearing simply means the bearing back to your initial position. All right. I do hope this video was helpful. And if it was, you can choose to like and then hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. This is Hab Beyond Numbers, where we learn maths the easy way. So see you in our next video and stay blessed. Bye.